When we were younger, we were told never to judge a book by its cover. But what we weren't told was how many pages we had to read to be able to judge, because, for someone like Terrence Crawford, we had to read a lot of pages before finding that moment. If you've not heard the story of this tough guy, just think of Despicable Me, only in this case, our gangster got his redemption in a gym. Terrence Bud Crawford's story dares you to dream beyond your background for the biggest stages life has to offer. In today's video, we're curious as to how this bad boy turned his life around with the help of boxing. When it comes to childhood experiences, some people had a rocky start, others had an outright bad childhood, and then there's Crawford, with the unhealthy combination of all. He didn't just grow up in the hood, Crawford was the hood. Born on September 28, 1987, in Omaha, Nebraska, Crawford's early life served as a baptism of fire for him. It seemed like the odds were stacked against him from the beginning. An absent father, constant financial problems, and living in an eat-or-get-eaten neighborhood. This made his early life wild from the beginning. I mean, how do you explain getting expelled from 5 different schools before you finish high school? Naturally, this attitude was a source of concern for his mother, even though her drinking problem was an accomplice to his growing wildness. On some days, she would whip with a belt, and on other days would pay young kids in the neighborhood to beat up her son. But we doubt that her method of whipping him with a belt stood a chance against what Crawford faced outside his home daily. Eventually, the gods of boxing decided to save Crawford from himself. From the age of 7, he picked an interest in boxing, although it would seem like boxing chose him instead, considering that his father, grandfather, uncles, and even his neighbor were all involved in it at some point, and were all regular callers at the CW Boxing Club. This club would later become a haven for young Crawford, kind of a means to escape the tough street life. And so, under the watchful eye of the legendary Midge Minor, Crawford's redemption slowly began to take shape. Special shout out to Midge, by the way. I can't imagine what it must have taken to reform such a hard-set kid. As an amateur, Crawford fought nothing less than 70 official bouts. And guess what? He only lost 12. If that wasn't an epic foreshadowing of his prowess in the main boxing world, I don't know what that is. He even beat future champions like Mikey Garcia. Talk about starting strong! Oh, and speaking of starting strong, Crawford's professional debut in 2008 was simply outstanding. Knocking out Brian Cummings in the vet first round with a powerful knockout immediately set him up as a potential to look out for in the boxing space. But while that was great, Crawford's breakthrough still didn't come until 2013, the year of his unveiling. His first challenge was against Breedis Prescott, and was special for 2 reasons. 1, Crawford's opponent was in a much higher weight class than him, and 2, the fight came on a 3-day notice. So we get why his manager, Cameron Duncan, was against it initially. No sane person would accept such a fight. But hey, it's Crawford we're talking about here. He went into that fight and delivered a masterclass to the audience, tearing Prescott apart in the 10-round bout. And with that, the world came to know of that young kid from Omaha. That same year, Crawford took on Alejandro Sanabria in a fight for the vacant WBO/NABO lightweight title. This was his first fight for a title, and naturally, there was skepticism all over the media. For most people, this fight was the real test that Crawford needed after keeping an impressive 20-0 record. However, if there's one thing Crawford learned from a young age, it's how to shut people up with a jaw-dropping performance. And we love him for it. The heavily promoted fight kicked off with Crawford receiving powerful punches from Sanabria. But by the 4th round, the beast in Crawford decided it was time. A brutal uppercut to the chin told everyone that he meant business, as he continued his punishing offensive on Sanabria up to the 5th round when the latter was saved by the bell. The end came in the 6th round when a thundering left hook sent Sanabria sprawling on the canvas at the very start of the round. Although he managed to beat the count, the ref's call ended the fight with Crawford's technical knockout victory. To crown his debut year, Crawford went against the undefeated Russian Andrei Klimov in an elimination bout. Seriously, with the way Crawford ate him up, we're wondering how this Klimov guy remained undefeated until then. But we listen, we don't judge. The entire match was in Crawford's favor. Yeah, Klimov put up a fight, sort of. But Crawford had a not-so-secret weapon, his southpaw stance. If you don't know what that is, it's simply a boxing stance where you lead your punches with your right hand and foot. You get to punch your opponents from badass angles due to how your hands are placed. Crawford, unfortunately for Klimov, was a pro to switching to this style mid-game, and once he did, Klimov couldn't keep up. Honestly, it felt much like a beating rather than a fight. Crawford later won the bout by a majority decision. As a result, he was billed to fight the renowned Ricky Burns as a contender for the WBO lightweight title in 2014. Again, a spectacular night it was. Burns was no small opponent, and if that wasn't enough, the hostile atmosphere of the arena made things much worse. Nevertheless, the tough guy from Omaha kept his head in the game all through, using his speed to his advantage in the first round. Things became juicy in the fourth round when swift jabs from Crawford sent Burns staggering against the ropes. And then, in the fifth round, the southpaw stance again made an appearance. Burns would later admit that it was awkward fighting him in that stance because things picked up fast. The dominance continued as Crawford landed punch after punch at an already stunned Burns. The match ended with a unanimous win from the judges. With a clean 116-112 sweep across the board, Crawford won his first world title as the WBO lightweight champion. The win was sweet, but winning in front of a maddening crowd of your opponent's fans was another level of victory. Clearly, this man was on the path to God mode. For this win, he was named the 2014 Fighter of the Year by ESPN and the Boxing Writers Association of America. In 2016, he made his debut as a light welterweight and went against Thomas Delorme for the WBO junior welterweight title. This fight was like watching a cat play with its food before devouring it whole. It seemed that Crawford was allowing Delorme to outwork him early in the fight, but by the fourth round, Crawford took over the fight, steadily throwing jabs at his opponent, and by the sixth round, he teased Delorme with a jab before whopping him with a left-right combination that made the Puerto Rican take a knee. Poor Delorme tried to get up, but Crawford looked at him and said, "Nope, not today." With another impressive power punch, Delorme went for the floor again. You just know he felt like a freight train just ran him over. While he seemed to recover, Crawford delivered the final blow that brought the fight to an abrupt end in a TKO victory. It was a historic night for him as he clinched the WBO junior welterweight title for the first time. Then came August 19, 2017. Mark that date down because it was the day Crawford fought Julius Indongo to snatch the WBC, WBO, WBA, and IBF titles, becoming the undisputed junior welterweight champion. At the start of the fight, both fighters seemed evened out in punches and misses, but as the bout progressed, Crawford connected a straight shot to Indongo's head that sent him staggering. In the third and final round, Crawford unleashes a set of punches to an already recovered Indongo. And just before fans could blink, he delivered a trembling hook to his body, which had Indongo crashing like a pack of cards. And with that, Terrence "Bud" Crawford secured a knockout victory in front of his home crowd in Nebraska. What a way to bring the win back home! In June of 2018, Crawford stepped into the welterweight division and faced Jeff Horn for the WBO title. Horn had just shocked Manny Pacquiao, yes, that Manny Pacquiao, and was riding high on confidence, or maybe it was just adrenaline from his last fight. But when Crawford entered the ring, let's just say Horn's confidence took a nosedive faster than your New Year's resolutions. Crawford dominated the fight and won by TKO in the 9th round. Afterward, he said something along the lines of, "I told you I was strong," and yes, he certainly proved it. By 2023, Crawford was billed to face yet another tough opponent in another title unification match. It was on July 29, 2023, the night when he faced Errol Spence Jr., an undefeated champion who many believed would be his toughest opponent yet. It was like watching two titans clash. The hype surrounding this fight was unreal. Crawford came out swinging, literally, scoring his first knockdown against Spence in round 2 with a powerful right cross that had everyone wondering if Spence had mistakenly walked into a brick wall instead of a boxing ring. As the rounds went by, it became clear that Crawford wasn't just fighting for belts, he was fighting for legacy. He ended up winning by TKO in the 9th round after sending Spence crashing down 3 times. It was as if Crawford had taken all those years of hard work and turned them into pure magic inside that ring. One thing is certain, this guy isn't slowing down anytime soon. It's not certain if he'll be taking on new challengers or even venturing into other weight classes, but wherever he goes next, you can bet we'll all be watching closely, because when Terrence Crawford steps into that ring, magic happens. And that's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you for watching the video to the end. And if you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel to enjoy similar content. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the achievements of Terrence Crawford in the comments. Until next time, keep those gloves up